Well, it's time for another episode of RuPaul's Drag Race All Stars Season 3. And this is Nick's Nerd Network, and I want to know why, Bendela. Why?
Drama queen.
So dramatic.
Why? Alright, so let's talk about the episode. This episode, I kind of want to do a different format that I want to try out, and we're not going to necessarily talk about every single queen's individual performance, but we're going to focus on more who we think did the best and who did the worst, and kind of let the safe queens fall in the middle, and they don't really need to be talked about. That way we're not going over too much. So let's first talk about the queens who came back. There was a lot of talk after this. I mean, it was a shock. We thought that there was only going to be 3 coming back. Rue teased us a little bit, so they all ended up coming back. It was good. And who do you think, when they kind of had that, like, I don't know, I want to say coming to Jesus moment, but meeting up and airing all their shit out in the open, who do you think kind of was, I guess, who do you think had reason to be upset?
I would probably say out of the 5 that were eliminated, it's a tie for me. I think Morgan, just because, you know, she didn't have the worst critiques the week that she was eliminated. I mean, you know, obviously she did put a target on her back by saying how she was going to play the game.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so, I mean, I do see Bendela's reason for sending her home. And then the other queen that I kind of thought, and I know that I'm not being biased, but Milk, because, you know, during that week, I mean, that was his first time in the bottom. He's been doing pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he didn't do the worst. So, I mean, I think that Kennedy just pretty much sent him home because he hurt her feelings, which is, you know, it's kind of petty.
Yeah. What about you, Elias? Who do you think had the most right to being upset?
I mean, I feel like Morgan McMichaels. I mean, like Jay said, she did put the target on her back by saying that.
Mm-hmm. No, I think normally I would think Morgan McMichaels, because I do think she's one of the ones that deserve least based on the challenge to go home. But I also agree, she came in swinging and she got a fight and she lost it. So that's kind of on her. I think out of the other girls, I think that Aja has the most reason to be upset, because she didn't do very poorly. I mean, I get it. It was the top 6, and someone had to go home. They're all very talented.
Well,
but
it was between her and Shangela, though, and Shangela had a better track record, so I can kind of see...
Yeah, I could see that. Shangela was doing really, really well, but the level that she played at that episode was so epically low. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't think that Shangela doesn't deserve to be an all-star anymore and still be in the game, but I think if they looked at
that particular challenge and that
yeah,
week,
I think that it was very much Shangela's time to go home, and it really broke my heart to see that level of effort coming from her. And being that it was BB that sent Aja home was kind of a twist to the knife. And Aja was right in what she said was, BB, you know, I helped you with that dress. It's not like she expected to get all the credit for it, but I remember specifically the judges said, "Wow, you made this," and BB's like, "Yes, thank you." Like she said in this episode, like, "Oh no, just thank you." Like, but no, she accepted credit for that dress fully. Shangela made an effort to thank Trixie for her help, even though Trixie probably didn't want her name tied to that dress. Right. I mean, there was a lot tied to that dress, literally, but figuratively, she probably didn't want her name tied to that.
But, I mean, in BB's defense, though, she doesn't really talk a lot on the runway. She even said that. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't talk on the runway. I mean, and I kind of, like, looking back on each episode, when they do give her, you know, like, her critiques and they do give her good ones, she doesn't, you know, have commentary. She just nods and says thank you. I mean, maybe that was just her being herself, like, not saying anything besides just thank you.
She does give somewhat of commentary, though. She always is kind of plugging, like, what her inspiration came from, and how it's like, I was just feeling this, and blah. Like, she does that. So, I don't know. I'm not upset with her. I do think it was a little bit, I think she should have gave credit where credit was due. Or at least kind of, like, paid homage to that with her description of who she was going to eliminate. And I don't like that she talked over Aja didn't really give her a chance to explain why she deserved to be there. I think we can all agree on that.
Yeah.
All right, so my next question is, what did we think of the challenge overall? Who do we think was the top performer in the challenge? Not necessarily of the top 5 that were selected by RuPaul. Who do you guys think was in the top out of your choice? If you could pick 2.
I think that it was a fun challenge this week. Everyone loves a girl group, so I mean that was definitely something that really kind of gave all the girls the opportunity to shine and work together. I think that of the eliminated queens of that group, I think that Aja was just the superstar of that group. She really outshined everybody. She had her lyrics, her rap, her dance moves. I mean, she was like the whole package for that team in that performance. So I would say Aja for that group, and then for the top 5 remaining queens, I don't know. I want to say Bendela really stood out because of her goth, like look, and the way that she really brought that character to life, and the way that she, was her face, her movements. I mean, she really stood out for me in that challenge. So,
what about you, Elias? Who do you think you would have picked as the top 2 out of everyone?
I think Aja was one of them that did really, really well. Her stage presence, like her dance moves, her rap. I think she did really, really well. And then I loved Bendela too. I was looking at her facial expressions, doing the goth girl look. It was cracking me up.
I think that I'm very happy that Bendela was in the top. I've been rooting for her this whole time. We know that. But I was actually surprised of both of the top 2 queens. I didn't necessarily agree that BB or Bendela should have been in the top in this instance. I thought that Aja was the strongest, and then I also thought Trixie was the strongest. Trixie wasn't the strongest dancer, but her lyrics were on point, her voice was on point, her look was on point, and it was very Spice Girls to me. I do think look-wise, BB encompassed the Spice Girls very much, but I think overall, Trixie was the most Spice Girl out of all of them.
Yeah, but looking back on it though, and having watched it a second time, Trixie opened the group, like she had her first lyrics, but I didn't find myself looking to find her and what she was doing because my eyes kept going to Bendela because she had that character, she had
That's true.
Those facial expressions. So I mean, for me, Trixie kind of fell into the background a little bit because I felt like she was outshined by Bendela.
But for me, watching that out of that group, my eyes kept going to Trixie or Bendela most out of that whole performance. I know this is probably gonna upset some people, but I really thought that BB's performance was overrated. I thought the dancing was great, and her motions encompassed the Spice Girl, but I thought that her lyrics there was no effort. It's effortless in a bad way.
It was my opinion on that is that BB's performance tonight was the first episode, her Lion King performance on Xanax.
Yeah,
What?
I don't know. It was just it was a bunch of made up words and just like blah, 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 blah. Like I could blah, blah, blah to a song and make a bunch of stupid stuff. Right. It wasn't anything. And she even admitted, if it had been something like a second language or something that was of meaning to her, then that would have made more sense to me. I mean, she's been kind of doing this theme of representing her heritage, sometimes a little bit too much, where I'd like to see something different. But this was just babbling nonsense, and there wasn't an effort put into the words, and there was no meaning behind it. It was a simple, safe choice, and I thought she should have been safe, not in the top.
But I think there was a little French in there too, though.
What
After she did the...
I don't know. It just didn't feel like all-star material to me. I think that there were other people who shine and put a little bit more effort into their performances.
I agree.
So, who do you think were the bottoms out of the performances? If you could pick one, maybe 2, if you're having trouble deciding.
I would say probably Kennedy for the top 5. She had her head kick in there. I mean, when she did her moves, her wig kept getting in her face, and you really can see her face for a few seconds there. For the other group, I would have to say probably Thorgy, or gosh, I don't know. Chi-Chi did good at the beginning. I mean, both of them kind of were very fell to the background compared to the other three, like Milk, Morgan, and Aja. I mean, I thought Morgan did pretty good, but I would say bottom two for each group, one for each from each group. I would say, I forget.
Kennedy.
Yeah, Kennedy for her group, and then for the eliminated queens, I would have to say probably Chi Chi.
Okay. What about you, Elias?
I mean, for Kennedy being like top 5, this challenge that I feel like they all did pretty good in, but I feel like she was probably. I mean, I think it was because her wig. I don't know. This one's a hard one.
Well, I mean, it's those little details now. I mean,
Yeah.
we're at that point.
Yeah, I would say for me, the bottom queens were, to me, I thought Morgan did the worst out of all of them. And here's my thoughts are her lyrics and her singing and her dancing were very similar to what she did for her talent show. And that's what landed her in the bottom and part of why she got sent home. If you take away the Bendela gate, whatever. I thought it was very similar to what she was comfortable already doing, and it didn't really feel like she was embodying the Spice Girls. She was still doing Morgan, and I think overall that's kind of what was the determining factor of the two groups, where the All-Stars, they worked together and they embodied the Spice Girls. I mean, when they walked in unison out, that was like, I'm not super familiar with the Spice Girls. I was kind of just like, when I was like just getting into music, I remember them, but they weren't like my thing. But I still, that was like, wow, that's iconic Spice Girls, even though I don't know them that well. And I felt like the other group were taking, like, they were individuals in a girl group where the main cast were functioning together.
They were more choreographed and more like cohesive to their movements and what they were doing.
Right, and they kind of faded into each other. Like, one girl was finishing up her song, and then the next girl coming up was reacting.
Yeah.
And I don't think Morgan, a lot of the bottom queens didn't fit into that, but I feel like Morgan was the worst out of that group. So we've talked about the competition, the tops and the bottoms. Who did you guys feel deserved to come back of the bottom queens the most?
I would definitely have to say Aja. I mean, she had her lyrics, she had her moves, she really stood out in that whole group.
What about you?
I feel like, I would say Aja, because she did really well this season. Like, and she killed it on the challenge.
I think, yeah, I agree. If it was going on performance, Aja deserved to come back the most. I didn't really feel like she should have gone home. I mean, even last week when she went home, her critique was, you're beautiful, you're on point, you look great. It's just not what we were looking for. And I think that she still has a lot to bring to the competition. But I'm not upset that Morgan got chosen because I felt like that was a blemish on Bendela's record. She felt bad about it. They had that moment. They talked it out. They made up, and Bendela's like, you know what? You're right. I don't know you. And I want to know you, and I want the world to get a chance to know you. And she brought her back. She made up for what she did in the past. Even though I thought at the time that was the right thing for her to do. I didn't want someone sending home the best competition and bluntly doing so. But I think now they're at a point where...
They have to.
Right. They have to, and that's a part of the competition Morgan's going to fit into better. And she still has some time to showcase herself. Because that's what I loved about All-Stars 2, is Tatiana had that time and got to come back and still get a chance to share herself. And I'm glad Morgan's getting the opportunity. Who do you think, if you were choosing from the actual bottom 3 of the All-Stars, who do you think would have gone home, or you would have sent home out of the 3?
Probably Kennedy, because she has the worst track record so far. I mean, Trixie's only been in the bottom once. Shanja's only been in the bottom once, but Shanja's also won. I mean, Trixie did win a lip sync in a challenge, but you know, she's just not hasn't been doing as well as the other two.
Yeah. What about you, Liz?
I mean, out of that, I would probably Kennedy.
I think that, yeah, I agree. It was time for Kennedy to go home. Shangela and Trixie have been performing very strong, even though Trixie took a little while to warm up in this season. I mean, she did well, but she wasn't, like, standing out as much as I thought she was going to come in, because they really hyped her up coming in. So yeah, Kennedy, she's had the worst attitude aside from Milk this season. I'm kind of glad Milk had a touching sense of himself, but I think a lot of things that Kennedy was calling Milk out for, Kennedy also has a problem with. She thinks she's better, she thinks she's stronger, and she thinks everyone else is beneath her, and she has no problem telling them, well, this is what I think about your drag, this is what I think about what you did. It's just me being honest. But when it comes back around, it's, you're attacking me, you don't respect me, I'm going to send you home. Yeah. Who's going home? Milk. Like, just as quick as can be. And it was personal. Her elimination was completely personal. The only other person that got kind of like a stab is Morgan, but that was Bendela's for the good of the competition. Kennedy, it was purely personal, and I hope she does not end up in the top again, because I don't want to see people go home for the wrong reasons.
Or looking at it the wrong way, or...
Right. Yeah. So, the big topic of the night, what did you think about the elimination?
I'm not gonna lie, I did kind of like do some digging and reading articles online, and I heard rumors and spoilers. I really didn't think it was true, but when it happened, I was blown away. I was shocked that Bendela chose herself to go home. Mm-hmm. Like, I did not expect that.
It's sad because I thought she was gonna go all the way, and she had it in the bag, and I think if she would have stayed, she would have won it all. I wish she would have not had quit, because everybody loves watching her and they want to see what she brings next. But it's her decision. I mean...
She has her reasons. I mean...
It's sad.
I think that what she did and how she did it can be interpreted in so many different ways, and I really hope that the fan base is mature enough to handle this. Because a lot of people are going to say, oh, she gave up, she called it quits, like, what a baby. Other people are going to say, wow, she's so brave, that was so respectable of her. And it was really hard for me to process. When I was watching it, the people around me, like, are you going to cry? Are you upset? Like, say something. Because I don't know if you guys noticed, but I've kind of been rooting for her a little bit. I've tried to be, completely unbiased. Sarcasm.
Well, I was telling him, Elias, last night, I was like, oh my gosh, I can just imagine Nick being at home, like the table's flipped over, the couch is on fire, windows are broken, that big riot happened in his apartment.
Well, I mean, because Bendela sent herself home, I don't have to burn anyone's houses down, so everyone's safe. But, no, the way I am choosing to process this, and I think that, I'll talk about this more later, but getting to see her last weekend in person, and hearing some of the things that she said, she didn't directly say anything or spoil anything, but kind of the way she talked and represented herself and talked about her experience on Drag Race, it made a lot of sense. And I think that for her, it was really important for her to come back and prove herself. And I think a lot of the drag queens, Drag Race is a double-edged sword, because these drag queens have been rocking it and doing great things even before they were on RuPaul's Drag Race, and Bendela is no exception. And she proved to herself she was a winner. She proved to herself that she was a queen. She was happy and confident with herself, and she said, you know what? I want someone else to be able to feel this way, and if they need a crown or RuPaul to say it to feel this way, then I want them to stay in the competition, but I don't feel right sending any of these queens home in exchange for someone who's already been sent home.
Yeah, I mean, she probably felt that she accomplished what she wanted to accomplish, and she wanted to get the reins to somebody else. I mean,
I know, but
that's one interpretation of it.
But if you make it that far, just
finish it.
Yes.
No, I'm very disappointed that she didn't stay, and I wish she would. It is not the choice that I would have made. I did like Aja's comment of Bendela Christ, because it did very much seem like I'm sacrificing myself for your sins or for your bottomings. I don't know, but
bottomings.
And I really hope, because a lot of people don't know this, but they do release episodes or mini episodes after each episode, just kind of like going through their exit interview essentially, and Bendela explained it a little bit more of why she was feeling the way she was feeling, and I feel like there's no good way of approaching that, but she did a great job. She has accomplished what no other drag queen has ever accomplished. I think the most I've ever seen someone win is 3 challenges in a season, let alone winning 4 in a row, 5 in total out of 6 episodes.
Well, Sharon Needles won 4 challenges in her season.
Did she win 4? Okay, I couldn't remember. But she didn't win them in a row. Bendela won 4 in a row, and she won 5 in total. So she is an all-star. She might not be hanging in the Hall of Fame, but to me, she's a queen. You know what, Bendela? I'm going to hang you up in my hallway. You're in my Hall of Fame. All right. Do you guys have anything else that you wanted to weigh in on this episode?
No. We'll just have to wait and see what happens with the remaining 5 queens and hope for the best.
Yeah, I mean, that's all for the review part of this episode. So,
wait, what did you think about RuPaul's reaction?
RuPaul's reaction? I think he was surprised. I don't know that I 100% believe that that was completely candid, because I find it hard to believe that she was able to write that on and get away with, like, altering a lipstick on camera, that kind of thing. But I do think the other judges were genuinely surprised.
I mean, for a second, I remember seeing the panel, and I just saw Michelle and RuPaul just, like, be like, to each other, like, I was like, oh my gosh.
I think Bendela, she did what she wanted to do. She proved to herself, and she exited in a very respectful way. I think if she just said, like, I'm over this, I don't need this, that would have been a problem.
But she went out on her terms, which is respectable.
And it was classy. It was classy. So that's all for the review of this episode. I would like to tell you all about Bendela's show. If you do get a chance, it's called oh my gosh, I can't remember the name of the show. But her show that she's currently touring on, she is doing a spoof version of Dante's Inferno with the Rings of Hell, and it's really, really good. I watched it and I was in awe the whole time. It's a one-woman show. She incorporates puppets. I don't want to give out too much away, but she does dress herself up and embody completely different characters, and it really makes you appreciate why she does so good at Snatch Game. I loved it. It had a positive message, and she was overall amazing. I don't want to give away details, but I lived for it. It's the best drag performance I've seen so far, and if you get a chance, please go see it. Please, please, please go see it. And I hope more people watch this so they can get that message, because I want people to see it. It really had a positive impact, and she had a great message. All right. Anything else, guys? All right. Well, we will see you all next week. This is Nick's Nerd Network, and I'm Nick signing off. Bye.
Bye.
If you like this episode of Nick's Nerd Network, please like and subscribe. If you have different opinions or would like to share some of your ideas, please share these in the comment section below. Please keep it constructive and friendly. Thanks so much for watching, and have a wonderful day.